This is the legislation now that comes into play. This is a legislation that matters and that counts. Okay? It counts because in this is the original writing, and it still means this. This is the original wording for it. They've just basically summarised it. They haven't changed what it means and what it's meant to mean in the law. Section 37, election propaganda, and propaganda mean having a proper look, having a propaganda, but also props. Representation of the People Act 1948, which is essentially the same as what's in the 1983 version, and carried across and copied to other laws, right? It's saying that in connection with the use of any wireless transmitting stations outside the United Kingdom, right? Anywhere that's transmitting or broadcasting, YouTube and all these American platforms and TikTok and so forth, they are outside the United Kingdom. It's got absolutely nothing to do with if Rachael Reeves, Rees Mogg, Esther McVey, Tice, Nigel Farrage are stood in England or sat in a studio in England. It's got nothing to do with that. It says procure the use of any equipment. It means any broadcasting equipment that is capable of sending messages which is outside of England. They're using the equipment and they're using the resources and the power capacity of transmitting equipment situated in the United States, which is the servers where videos are stored and sent from along the internet and through wireless. That brings this act into effect. And for the actual part of the programme, no person shall with intent to influence people or persons to give or refrain from giving their votes at a parliamentary election use or aid, abet, counsel or procure the use of any wireless transmission station outside of the United Kingdom. Well, this is actually using it at all, in any way at all. Now, Rachael Reeves and many other MPs are using YouTube. They're actually using YouTube, which is situated outside of the United Kingdom. What is the wording of it in the other act? In the 1983 Act, it says broadcasting from a place outside the United Kingdom. But what does broadcasting from a place outside the United Kingdom mean? What does it mean? It doesn't just mean that you're not allowed to be in America and broadcast to England while you're stood in America. The meaning of it, what does the process of broadcasting mean? It includes making use of equipment and servers and resources. If someone's got a private business, it's American business because it's an American business registered in America helping an English election. That's why. And the rest of the wording is the same, right? But that is what it actually means. Now, it says that you cannot influence at all in any way people to vote for or against, right? Use or aid now is in any way helping people. Betting on people is putting your money on, but not just putting your money on them, putting your resources on them, putting them on the station. If you bet on someone, you're going to favour them. You're going to have a part in a desired outcome that you may be for or against in some way. Counsel, that means even give advice. Even if you say, or even if you say, right, that it's likely that Donald Trump's going to win, those polls that all these magazines and these newspapers are doing in America or even in England, Boris Johnson is doing good in the polls. He's winning. He's going to win. It's showing in the polls. You're giving counsel to people. What you're actually doing is you're schooling them in the election. You're saying, well, Boris is the most popular, so the odds are on that he's going to win. Odds are betting. It says a bet. If you get all these statistics that say that the most people are likely to vote Tory now, it's like going to the casino and going, this horse is the favourite. It is for sure. And you're also counselling on them. You're giving voting advice and you're even giving voting statistics. I don't even think what people know what these words means anymore in the English language. The intelligence of the English is fallen so low in intelligence that they don't even know what their own vocabulary means. They don't know what their own vocabulary even means or the words. They just read them and kind of see like some kind of, reflection of the sky on them. They can't see through the water, all the different fish swimming in the sea and the bottom of the water and the starfish and the plants and the coral. They just look at it and say, I bet counsel. They don't even sit there and go, what does counselling mean? What is the extent of counselling someone and how do you counselling someone? Well, you were giving them voting advice or even recommendations or even giving them the figures so they know who may or may not win. That's giving them counsel and then also betting on them, right? A bet is to bet on them. When you go to a bookies, right, that's betting. What do bookies do? Bookies give you gambling counsel and they give you gambling odds, right? And they even say, they're the ones who set the prices on the favourites. They're the ones who say, we know who the favourites are. This horse is likely to win. That's why we're giving lower odds on it, right? That is a betting. This is what a betting and counselling is. But by making Rachael Reeves really has broken this law by having a YouTube adverts continuing to run at the moment, and not only is she shouldn't even have them on YouTube because it's getting aid from companies and businesses that are American based and situated, which in these laws is illegal. Also, Jacob Rees Mogg, when the discussion that I went to in the first part of this, there's a very finite thing that you need to know in your mind, and that is power lines. When you walk into a television show and you've been elected into Parliament and they invite you on because you're the MP and they want to ask you some questions about what you're doing with the government, nothing to do with how you got there or who to vote for, and you answer those questions on the government, you're only there through the power of the electors and through the funding of the employment of Parliament. Now, if you cut that power line and the votes suddenly drop, or the Parliament aren't paying for your car to get there, you've gone, you've disappeared. Now, if you are in a TV programme as a presenter, or even there, and you are there and you cut the power cord from Parliament, but you're still there, you're there through employment, money, profits from the company that's not the taxpayers' money that's holding you there. It's a private company with private interests, and it's even abetting and aiding on MPs. Now, they become mascots, they become household names and celebrities from the power charging into them from the money they're being paid and from the TV show private organisation, not through the power line of the electors. And it's two separate things. And to aid, it says you're not allowed to aid in an election. Now, If no one has heard of Nigel Farrage and he's got to run an election campaign and pay for it himself out of donations, he's got to help himself get elected. If someone gives him a spot on a TV show and he's there every week, right, he's been aided by that TV programme. He's been aided by them to let people know about him, that he exists, regardless of whether he talks about him being elected or not. Even if he's talking about politics, you're aiding him as a person in his political pursuits. And that is aiding someone. You're also giving them money as well. It's not right. And in this, it doesn't matter what type of programme it is at all whatsoever. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the type of programme. And it doesn't actually matter if you don't have to blatantly go on to talk about the election, who will win in the election or anything. If you haven't been invited on a show to answer questions specifically on the government, and if you're a presenter, any discussion about the government or promotion of it or anyone is going to aid them and also help their popularity. This is what this is meant to be made for. I'm going to give you an example of a reverse situation for this, right? Let's think of Graham Norton, right? Let's think of Graham Norton. Graham Norton is not a politician. He's never run for government in a parliamentary election. And as far as we know, he's got no intent to, right? He chooses to be a presenter and a celebrity, right? He's not likely to run for parliament, right? Now, he's a presenter and he's a household name. He's very popular with the public. Everyone knows who he is and everyone likes him, Graham Norton. Now, if Graham Norton suddenly declared that he was running for election, he's going to have a lot more of advantage than John Smith down the road. How about that guy in Rochdale who came second place to George Galloway in the Rochdale by-election? He did extremely well, right? He came second place, but hardly anyone knew who he was. How does he get promoted? They can invite him onto shows, they can invite him onto TV shows, and but for the election, he can't really be on any programmes or broadcasts that are funded or aided from outside of the United Kingdom. You're not supposed to make use of any benefits, capacities, equipment, assets or anything from a foreign business situated abroad or any of its equipment. That's what the law is. It brings other clauses into effect. And the thing is that you will be able to see that if Graham Norton was running for election, right, for Parliament, now that means that he wouldn't be allowed to mention it while he's presenting, right? He wouldn't be able to say, oh, by the way, I'm running for election. And he wouldn't be able to say, vote for me or don't vote for me. But as for counselling and aiding, the thing is, when he has got his own private campaign and when he's collecting money for that campaign, and that campaign money is the only money that's meant to be used for the campaign and it all has to be accounted for and so forth with Parliament, right? Is he getting any aid from anywhere else? Now, if anyone finds out that he is running for election and you can vote for him through that programme, through the money that is being getting paid to appear and be on that programme, or from any transmission received in anyone's house in England, right, he's being given aid. If anyone finds out, right, and if they do find out and word spreads, Graham Norton's running for Parliament, and then someone says, oh, by the way, yeah, he's on TV, oh, it's Graham Norton, then everyone watches the TV knowing that Graham Norton then is running for election, whether they found out or not through the TV. At that point, he is getting massive amounts of promotion, huge, and becoming a cherished household name from the aid of a private broadcasting company or corporation, right? Or even worse, if the equipment or the company is situated overseas like YouTube and he's getting monetization money from it, or any wage or money from an overseas situated company that's got equipment which all of the servers and the Wi-Fi and so forth are being transmitted from America. That's what the law means. It means the same in both of the acts. You have to look at the earlier one because they just went to more lengths to explain it with more clarity. They've abbreviated it now. They haven't changed what it means, right? So that they are aiding them and they're betting on them. And it's gone crazy now. If Nigel Farrage and Tice and Esther McVey, if Nigel Farrage, Lee Anderson, Jacob Rees-Mogg, Tice and Esther McVey had not been presenting and heavily featured on GB News, none of them would have got voted. In fact, it worked against Mogg. It worked against Mogg. People and they know in their hearts that it's not right. Now, a politician is not meant to be a household name celebrity in entertainment. It's meant to be the primary job, and then it goes into all that business on, whether it's your primary income or not, or your secondary income. What it means is, what is your actual job meant to be? Because if you're in Parliament, you're not meant to be getting benefits from TV programmes, popularity, and so forth. If the public elects you, and it was a fair election without any unfair aid, unfair publicity, unfair attention from these other financial parties and groups, right, then the people have channelled you to appear in the programme, and because they elected you, you get to be on the programme and say, thanks for electing me, and the presenter says, what are you up to in Parliament? And he tells them, right? And then he's gone, right? And that's it. And all MPs who get elected get their slot on there to answer questions. Now, if that cable and that cord, that line from Parliament who pay for their car to get them to the TV station is gone, they're not on the TV station and they're not there because they're not there at the grace of the elector. If they're there at the grace of a private company that's paying them huge, massive wages, and they're going to be on there all the time, and they're getting aid. They're getting aid, and they're being abetted on by given the job. And if they're running, they have got an unfair advantage. This is what this law is meant to stop. This is the unfair advantage of what this is meant to stop. And the problem is that we've got social media now, and all these people are on social media, and they're getting massive amounts of followers and putting videos for their own channels and so forth. But when they're getting these wages and paid to be on these high-profile programs, and a lot of the equipment's overseas, it is not right. And what I'm saying is the law's not fit for purpose. As this law is written now, it is illegal what they're doing, and they don't have Parliament privileges. They forfeit them, and they can be tried in court. It does say that it's possible for them to evade conviction or prison, but that's to do with the Corrupt and Legal Practices Act and privileges. It doesn't stop them being tried for that crime and their material stopped from being what they're doing and the advantage that they've been given. It's meant to prevent it from continuing. Now, with Rachael Reeves MP, her channel on YouTube is declared for Parliament, like Judge Galloway's was. And what she's doing is what Judge Galloway was doing when he was MP. It was declared as Judge Galloway's channel, but when you write to Judge Galloway MP, he says that he can't speak to you about any matters unless you're from Rochdale. George Galloway MP can't speak to the public and answer questions unless you're from Rochdale. But yet he's answering questions from every Tom, Dick and Harry on his programme, right? Now that's not right. And with Rachael Reeves, her advert was created for the election and it's still running. It favours the Conservative Party, not just herself, but other candidates. and it opposes the Conservatives and supports Labour. So it's in favour of the Labour Party and supports Labour, and it opposes the Conservatives. And the election's finished, but it's still running. And when you click on the advert, it says paid for by Rachael Reeves. It goes to Rachael Reeves MP. It's a video on her channel MP. Now, she needs to stop running the advert. I want to get the Forfeiture Committee to remove her from being Chancellor, because I think it's serious. And what they're doing is they're trying to help all these other people from staying on GB News and so forth. I doubt Starmer's going to remove her because she's like the crown in his jewel. Other than Angela Rayner, she's like the Labour need her because she's like the post office woman. She's like a key worker. She's like one of the main Labour products, one of the main flagship image products from Labour. She's got this Keir Starmer, librarian, post office woman, image that they're selling to the public. Reeves this is the thing, that advert, it doesn't even actually matter whether it's coming from America or not, but that's relevant that it's actually equipment and broadcasting tech is in use, being benefited from overseas. It's situated in America. She doesn't have to be in America. It's making use of foreign equipment and services and assets, and even the monetization money and all the rest of it, which is probably not monetized. But this is the thing. Reeves MP can only now talk about matters of the government. She's allowed to debate parties in the chamber, but not through advertisements. And this is the thing. There are by-elections running all the time. There are by-elections all through the year. Now, that advertisement is capable of influencing by-elections either way, right? And it's still running. It is capable of doing it and aiding them and abetting on them for Labour against Tories, right? And that is why it's illegal. I've written to her and she's just ignored me, right? I'm going to write to the Forfeiture Committee. I'm going to write to the Privileges Committee. Ofcom just are useless. The Advertising Standards Authority are useless. They don't understand the law. We've got the exact same problem in the courts with the privileges of Parliament at the same level of intellect, and even the Crown Prosecution Service aren't doing it properly. Patrick Gibbs KC wasn't doing it properly. You've got these very, very high-level barristers working for the Crown Prosecution Service who don't fully know and understand at this level of law. They can put these good arguments on things they've trained for, but the most Crown prosecutors don't get involved in prosecuting election petitions or election petition area of law is a specialist area of law that very few barristers are specialised in. And even the ones who are doing it, I don't think that they're doing it thoroughly or properly. Ofcom can take action. In fact, I'm pretty sure that Ofcom are probably, if they can't prosecute themselves, they're likely responsible on filing a full report to the Privileges Committee or even the Forfeiture Committee, which is what they should have done with Rees Mogg. I'm not wrong about this. You've got to be able to interpret this act properly. And if you don't understand words like aid and counsel to their full extent and capacity, and what actually abetting on someone is, what I've explained, you're just not intelligent enough to do the job. Ofcom aren't intelligent enough to do the job. Those staff at Ofcom are not intelligent enough to do that job fully to its full capacity of what it needs to be done. They're doing it at a very dumbed down level. That's just a fact and truth. There are things that I don't know and don't understand, but I understand this, and I understand that they aren't up to the capacity and level required for this, and neither are the Advertising Standards Authority. I have a legal right to complain to the Lady Chief Justice, and the reason for that is that in matters of breaking the law, courts, these people are protected from the courts with privileges, right? But offences like this forfeit privileges. The Judicial Conduct Investigation Office is the area of law in the Constitutional Reform Act because it uses it. The Judicial Conduct Investigations Office, the area of operation is the Act, the Constitutional Reform Act 2005, because that's their prime act. It's their priority main act they're using. And it's got Section 5 on representations to Parliament. Now, if you want to prosecute an MP, right, you probably would speak to the Attorney General because he's meant to be the Solicitor of Parliament, but he would take him out to the courts. The thing is that we've got committees that who manage MPs and the cabinet, the Privileges Committee and the Forfeiture Committee. They're the ones responsible. And I would have thought if the Privileges Committee were going to take action in a court and not just give disciplinary within Parliament, they would refer it to the Attorney General. He can take cases for contempt now and various other matters. So, the Right on Richard Hormer, MP, Baron Hormer, has said that he's not going to take sides with parties. He's promised that he's not going to take sides with parties. Rachael Reeves' advertisement was intended for influencing voters in elections, and it's on an MP channel for Parliament. And it's still running. And by-elections can pop up at any time, and she hasn't stopped it. And I think that it's with potential to influence the outcome of elections for Labour against the Conservatives. Now, she needs to stop it. It's showing all over YouTube. And on the other basis that I've put, on what the meaning of a bet, what the meaning of counsel, what the meaning of aid, to help someone, to give them assistance in some way which can contribute, relating, if it can some way be related to the outcome of an election and somehow gave a identifiable benefit, an identifiable asset, or in Rees Mogg's cases, detrimental effect. If Graham Norton ran for Parliament, and unless you had an airtight programme where it was impossible to find out that he was running through that programme or any reference to it in any way, but I don't think that it's possible to prevent the leak anymore, because as soon as the public become aware of it, not through the programme, it's like circumvention, the word circumvention. No matter how airtight the television is giving out the signal, the beam, the glowing light, even if that programme is airtight and doesn't in any way let any of the public know that their main celebrity host is electable, they can vote for them, right? They're going to find out through other outside of the TV box, right? And once they do, then this is where you need to see how what they're doing is illegal. Once the public in that area, a section of the public at large are a section of the public, once they are aware, or it gets spread by word of mouth, and remember that you can come out of the studio or the back door of the studio or through the word of mouth of presenters or people involved in the TV programme, not just transmission, remember. Once they know that he's on the ballot and they look at the ballot, right? Oh, Graham Norton's on there. Then they're all going to watch the programme. And if Graham Norton is on TV and none of the other candidates are a presenter, and once people know that they can vote for him, from that point on, if the election, his election campaign money has to come from sponsorship and donors, and it must be declared to Parliament, and it can't go over certain limits. That is what's benefiting him in the campaign. Now, if he is a presenter on the programme, right, he is going to be getting an electoral advantage from that programme, because he's got a power line from the company that's employing him, particularly if it's overseas and YouTube are involved in broadcasting equipment, he's been held there on the TV from power, which is giving him promotion in the election, which isn't accounted for in his election spending. And they're going to become very, very fond of him or disfond of him, like Rees Mogg, either way, right? And that is aiding him. It is aiding his popularity. And that is because if you want to be an MP, don't be a celebrity presenter. You become known to the public when you pop up the side of the TV and they invite you in to answer questions and then disappear again with a little power line that comes from Parliament inviting you in because you've got the privilege of being that minister and they want to ask you questions and then poof, you're gone. And you're only there because petrol money from Parliament got you to the TV studio, the taxpayer. And once that's gone, you're not on TV anymore. While you're elected, you've got the privilege of popping up on TV, then disappearing. When you're not, any benefit you're getting from the television, even if you don't mention that, by the way, I'm running, or you can vote for me, this is when you get into this aid, abetting and counselling, and this is also now getting into the Americans and English newspapers when they're doing all these polls. Because if you're a TV presenter and you aren't an MP or in the cabinet, and you say on television, a poll came out the other day and Boris Johnson is, leagues ahead of everyone. The poll says that, only 1% of people, support Liz Truss. What you've done at that point is you've counselled the public. You've given them counsel on election statistics and figures, which are going to aid the person who's leading in it, because everyone will know you've just counselled them. That's what you don't even know what counselling means. And also, if you go into a bookies and you don't know anything about betting, and they say, this is our favourite because, we know that they've got the highest chances of winning because we worked it out, that's all their self-counselling information and betting statistics and favourites. And if the TV tells that to the public, even those poll results are illegal. They're Class E material. They are material which is in connection with elections in England. And I don't know how we've all sleepwalked into this. They've slipped it under the doormat. They've snuck it in people's nightcap. It slowly snuck into the TV and become so relaxed. And the Americans... If I've done a talk about the electoral voting system in America, how it was set up so you had to vote from one person from your own state and one person from out of state, a home vote and an away vote. It was made so it was a very fair competition for all of America. And then there was no guarantee who was going to come second place and be vice president. The vice president was the person who got the second highest votes. And then it got hijacked by political parties who started ticket touting and counselling and even abetting on their favourites. And this is how we've just ended up with these two. It's a coin flick. What they're giving us is, it's one coin, heads or tails. They're saying, right, you can only have either Donald Trump or, Joe Biden. And flick a coin. That's no contest. It's no competition at all. In fact, it's 50-50. It is a bet. It's turned into a bet, a 50-50 a bet. It's no contest. And all the newspapers are actually aiding and abetting in it as well. And I would say that, this element of overseas equipment, overseas resources, it's just unfortunate for Keir Starmer and David Cameron and more recent ministers that the internet happened and social media happened, and it happened in pretty much of a whirlwind, and now everyone's talking about and influencing elections, particularly through overseas equipment, making use of it, and it's a blitz, it's a bomb blitz of criminality, and the Electoral Commission are going to do nothing about it. I've tried. They're at the capacity of Ofcom. They're at the capacity of the Advertising Standards Agency, which they're not really fit for purpose. I'm not saying that they're stupid completely, because they know a lot of things that I don't, and a lot of complicated things, but not this. Not this. They've got intelligence and a large amount of knowledge within a certain area, but not. It's not using it to its full extent of what it's meant to be there for, and they've lost sight of what it actually is meant to do. Now, if times have changed and they want to scrap these laws, but they're still in effect, and they still mean this, and it's still illegal, and it is forfeiture of privileges, and I want some action, because I don't even dislike Nigel Farrage. I'm not an opponent of Farrage. I might even support some of his policies. But I'm a person that things need to be done right, or else you can't have people getting prosecuted every day in magistrates' courts by the police, claiming that they're upholding the law, when you've got all this happening, because otherwise they're saying, oh, we're only interested in this law, or robbery, or assault, and now they're getting all these other cyber crimes. You can't say this or that, but they're not even preventing these corrupt MPs from I don't think that I don't think that Anderson, Tice, Farrage, even if I like them, would be elected now if it wasn't for GB News. GB News have not only aided and cancelled people directly and indirectly, they are solely responsible for these people being known. And the Chancellor is not a judge, but she's got a very high position in Parliament, next to the Prime Minister. And there are judicial functions of the House of Commons which can be invoked, like with the post office workers. And the legislation which the courts use has got a provision for matters which concern the House of Commons. That's the truth of it. They've got a provision for matters which concern the House of Commons from the courts. And I know that it's not the courts who bring charges, but when you report something to the Judicial Conduct, you're the investigator, not the CPS, not the police. You are the investigator, and the Judicial Conduct Office have a equivalent of a prosecutor. Now, that's meant to be against a judge or someone with a judicial capacity. I reported King Charles to it because he's got judicial capacity. The Privileges Committee and the Forfeiture Committee are two relevant committees within the House of Commons who assess these things and decide what action to take. I would suggest that they employ the Attorney General. I'm doubtful of whether Richard Hormer is going to act from the Attorney General's office to the Supreme Court or against Reeves. So therefore, I think she could be told to withdraw the advert and apologise, or she could be removed from Chancellor and someone else could be given the position, right? I'm not suggesting they prosecute her in the court, even if they waiver it and she does get her privileges or not. But it says that they definitely do face, officially recognised for doing wrong. They have to stand for it. As for these other persons, it's with regret that this situation exists. I think they just partially want to. They're bluffing at the moment. They're writing general guidance, which is not the full extent of the law, and which they're hoping everyone's gonna kind of like go along with, like Ofcom, or Rees Mogg's pushing the boundaries, but Ofcom is not taking the full action which it can take. Ofcom can write to the Forfeiture Committee. Ofcom can write to the Privileges Committee. They had committees over the Culture, Media and Sport where they heard the matters from Ofcom to do with Parliament. In Culture, Media and Sport, they had a committee meeting in there. And if, even if there was a Supreme Court case, I would have thought at that point, definitely the Constitutional Reform Act 2005, Section 5, would be in some kind of use. I think that an investigator in the JCIO acting on the investigation of a member of the public against an MP in the House of Commons can submit for help me to formulate and write a higher standard charge to the Privileges Committee and possibly even to the Forfeiture Committee, and then wait for it to respond to the courts, because obviously it would be the Supreme Court, wouldn't it? So that's back and forth. That's how I'm seeing it now. Rachael Reeves is just going to blag this. I can tell by she's just going to be like, Postman Pat character. She's just going to, it's, and Starmer is, he's got his super mega team. Starmer does have discipline, but I think that Rayner and Reeves are two people I think that are on his personal immunity radar, because they're they're specially designed caricatures that are a key plan for his party to succeed, because that's why Reeves' adverts are still being played at the moment illegally. And even if Starmer did replace them, I don't think he wants his party to take another disciplinary, But I'm right about this. I'm not wrong about it. It's all about the knowledge and interpretation of what actually the full meaning of to give counsel means, to its full extent in the vocabulary, and the full understanding of what giving counsel includes and extends to in the English vocabulary, and in understanding of social dynamics and what to abet on someone is, and to how to aid someone, and what even aiding someone is, and how what are the different ways of giving aid to people, right? Mogg got aid, and it didn't help him. It actually hindered him. But that's illegal for it to hinder him. It's actually illegal for it to aid to hinder him. Reeves is slightly different, because Reeves actually, her advert was fully blatantly intended to influence election, and she's continuing with it when there can be by-elections springing up at any minute, and it's got an influential effect now that's continuing after the election, right? Against Conservatives and for Labour. So, this video's in two parts, but this is the legislation around it. I want to have to write it all out in